Steve Dace, you are one of the more public faces of Michigan football in the media, but the school that you love has experienced one of the most dramatic stories in recent American sports history with the firing and arrest of head coach Sherrone Moore. So first off, Steve, what are the facts of the story and how are you processing it all?
Well, I think the facts of the story are that Sherrone Moore has been living a double life for a good portion of his brief 2-year career as the Michigan football coach. And eventually, as the scriptures say, your sins find you out. And the dam broke yesterday afternoon, probably about the time he thought he was in the free and clear. These rumors have been around for months. I mean, I first heard these rumors from a former player in September. So they've been around forever. The university did investigate both Sherrone and the woman in question. Both vehemently denied it to athletic director Ward Manuel. And so at that point, I don't know where else an investigation goes if both parties on both ends deny the allegations. To start off a new year, Sherrone was advised by the athletic department not to be working with her anymore. And so instead of relocating her, just to avoid the appearance of impropriety, but instead of relocating her, he apparently tried to fire her. And this is what prompted her to come back on Monday with I'm told, certifiable evidence. There's a lot of rumors about what that evidence happens to be. I don't feel comfortable as a Christian saying definitively that I know what it is. I just know that she brought irrefutable evidence to say, on second thought, I've been lying for the last year, and the affair and everything was real. And then Sherrone Moore was fired on the spot. And then what proceeded to occur in the aftermath is nothing more than really just a breakdown. He visited her home. She called the police, claimed that he had been stalking her. They found him with a knife, claiming that threatening to kill himself. He was placed in protective custody. He is scheduled to be arraigned later today. And so, at this point, Sherrone Moore has a battle ahead of him to stay out of prison, to secure his family. He's been married for several years, has 3 children. Him and his wife just had another newborn here earlier this year. So, you just watched somebody collapse under the weight of their own sin, as tragic as it is. And now you've got, 95 football players, all of their parents, the assistant coaches, their families as well. A lot of careers and lives now are about to be and are facing upheaval because of his lack of self-control.
All praise to our Heavenly Father, the Most High Yah, in the name of our Lord and Savior. Some of y'all say Yahusha, some of y'all say Yahushua, some of y'all say Jesus. All right, so as y'all can see, the Sherrone Moore incident that has happened, and that clip that I just showed you, right, was from CBN. And the reason why I'm really doing this video, you know what I'm saying, because you see how the religious hypocrites always try to handle something and say, oh, it's because his sin. They have no problem pointing out our sin, right? But when it comes to, one of them, everybody knows this would have got swept under the rug, right? This is the Michigan University football head coach, right? And what it is, as you can see, they basically knew about this the whole time, right? Since September. It was rumors and stuff going around that he was having an extramarital affair with, his assistant, right? Cheating on his wife, basically, right? But, these guys sit up here and say, it's sin and all this, whatever. His sin basically is fornication. It's not adultery because the other woman was not married, right? But regardless of what he done, I want to make sure that I talk about this in the context, for men. I'm not making this video for women, right? Because you're going to feel differently, because if it was done to you, you would have a certain type of way you're going to feel about it. But as far as men, you know what I'm saying? We have to be able to have spaces where we can talk to one another and talk through our issues as well, you see, and be able to talk about it in truth and sincerity, not from a place of which, and you should have never did that. You had self-control. You lack self-control. That's what sin is, right? These same people that just now put this piece out on Sherrone Moore are the same ones that sitting here saying that Christians should side with Israel. Sherrone Moore didn't go out here and kill nobody. He ain't dropped bombs on nobody. But CBN, y'all want to sit here and bring this and say, oh yeah, his sins, but you make known his sins, but you don't make known the sins of Israel, that state of Israel over there, right? You ain't telling them they need to come to Christ. You're not doing all that. But here you see how what they do, as soon as they get one of us, oh, it's public crucifixion, right? They're just going to publicly crucify you. Oh, how could he do this? You know, and then that Sherrone Moore's wives, I'm just saying it now, they were white. I mean, his wife is white and the assistant was white. You see what I'm saying? So the bottom line is, oh, you see, that's these Negroes, they're going to go after your daughters and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so they plaster that all up there. And that's what these Zionists always have done, right? So if they get these black celebrities, the next thing they want to do, you know what I'm saying? See, it's what we try to tell you, hide your wife, hide your daughter from these you know, savage heathens, whatever, when they are the ones that's running around here raping children. You see? But the bottom line is, you know what I mean? Still, two wrongs don't make no right. So I'm not here to justify him, but I'm here to go through scripture to show how this is something that men wrestle with, right? This ain't nothing new, right? But the bottom line is, first of all, you know, before we get into scriptures, I want y'all to go into the next segment where y'all going to see how the media, how the news is reporting on this, you know what I'm saying? As if they don't have all of these daggone owners. And, you know, Jerry Jones got caught up in some stuff. You didn't see that plastered all over the place. They had it real quick and then they snatched it out the media real soon, right? Jerry Jones was in there with, you know what I'm saying, girls in the bathroom, pictures and all this type of stuff, and he's a married man, but you ain't seen people to this day crucifying that man, and he didn't lose his team or none of that, right? The NFL didn't do nothing to him, you see? But that two wrongs don't make a right. But we're just pointing out the hypocrisy. But now let me show you the media reports and how they put this stuff out in the news.
We were following the court proceeding for fired Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore, now being charged with 3 crimes, 2 misdemeanors and a felony. The felony is home invasion. The 2 misdemeanors, stalking in a domestic relationship and breaking and entering. And it looks like he's going to be out on $25,000 bail. He'll have a GPS tether. The judge reading him all instructions that he cannot go, out of the area. No booze, no alcohol. He's got to keep up with mental health treatment. He cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. So just from you were listening and gathering all the details as well, Brian, are you surprised that, considering what happened here, that that the judge is letting him out on bond?
Not surprised at all. I understand a lot of the cases that we follow are high-profile murder or sexual assault types of cases. And while this does have very serious allegations, we are talking about home invasion in the 3rd degree. This would be the lowest level of home invasion the state of Michigan has. This is a person of means, and the way that Michigan operates when it comes to the bail system is highly dependent on cash. Some would argue that causes an imbalance in the system for those who do not have. But this is a former Michigan coach, and so he does have the means. That's why you're hearing a lot of them talk about, when you do get out, you will have a monitored tether. When you do get out, you have to abstain from certain items like alcohol and substance abuse. And if he does violate those, he can actually be brought back into jail, potentially have a higher amount of bond or bail, or not be released at all. The other thing that I would point out too is, in Michigan, like many other states, they created this date, this probable cause hearing or date of January 8th, that they need to have this hearing beforehand. But it's very interesting that the defense waived that date and instead pushed it back. What that suggests to me is that he already has the money lined up, that he is going to get released sometime soon, and they can wait a couple more days to prepare and do a probable cause hearing later on in the month of January.
All right. So now, as you can see, right? You see how the media shaped that? Are you surprised that the judge let him out? You got a woman, but then you get a black man, right? You don't want to put a white man up there because, right now people will get ticked off about that. So, you know what I mean? You get the woman and she's on there, well, aren't you, he went over there and stalked her. But now we see from the first report, she was initially denying everything, right? She was denying it. But it wasn't until Michigan started putting pressure on him to have to get rid of her, right? Based off of, well, we're hearing y'all having, an affair, and, that's inappropriate, and they both was denying it. But he's trying to move her out the picture, you know what I'm saying, to protect his own neck. And as soon as he did that, now she turned state evidence on him, right? So that's why I said, takes 2 to tango. And the minute that, you know what I'm saying, if you go rob a bank with somebody, the one person who can always flip and tell on you is the person you robbed the bank with, right? So basically, as soon as he's pushing, oh, you gonna take my job? You gonna take my stuff away from me? Okay, well, I'm gonna go and tell on him. That cost that man $5 million a year because he had a $5 million a year contract, I think for like 3 or 4 more years. So basically, you know what I mean? Her going and telling, see, they could have fired him, but they had to have cause to fire him, right? If she doesn't turn state evidence, they can't fire him. They would still have to pay him. But because she told on him, now all of a sudden they can fire him and he doesn't get paid. So now you can see why this man would be really, really angry and upset and wanted to go over there and confront her. However, that was a major mistake because now you made her the victim. You see what I'm saying? So that's where he made a major, major mistake, right? But now let's just continue on because I want y'all to see, another portion of the story, how this woman even knew his wife, right? You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell you the story is just like craziness, but we're going to get into the Bible on all of this. But I just want y'all to be able to see and get some of the new groundwork of everything that was going on here.
Schools hide a lot because Sherrone Moore isn't the only coach that cheats on his wife. A lot of these coaches do. They are just better at it than Sherrone Moore was. Sherrone Moore was cheating with his assistant as if people wouldn't find out. From what I understand, people knew that this was going on and they made jokes about it. Let's move on to this. Sherrone Moore's wife and alleged mistress were following each other on Instagram amid rumored affair. A new development has been added to the story of former University of Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore. He has been fired and has been arrested following allegations of having an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Justin Spiro reported that it appears that Moore's wife and the supposed staffer Paige Sheaver were following each other on Instagram. Spiro displayed pictures of what appeared to be linked profiles, or neither of these women have broken their silence since.
All right. So as you can see, you know what I mean? This mistress knew the wife, right? So she knew he was married, right? But yet she chose to lay with a married man. And then when they both were about to be found out, they're having this affair, you know what I'm saying? He tries to cover it up. And then once he can't cover it up because he's going to basically fire her and she's going to lose her income, now basically she comes out and she tells everything. Why? Because she like, oh, if you're going to try to destroy my life, if you're going to go for self, then I'm going to go for self, right? Because I can get paid out of this too, right? But anyway, Proverbs 6:26, verse 33. This is a lesson for men. What does the scripture tell you? For by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread, right? So you see, this man has been brought to a piece of bread. He went from just 2 weeks ago coaching in a nationally televised game, right, to now sitting in a jail cell, right, for by means of a whorish woman, right? And the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? So that he that goeth into his neighbor's wife. So now if he would have committed adultery with somebody's wife, then it'd have really been something. That's what David got in trouble. And we're going to go through all of the people in the Bible, you know what I'm saying? We're going to go through, all of their transgressions, right? So you can see how it should have been handled. He should have handled this thing like David handled it. He should have repented. He should have gone on his knees. He should have prayed. He should have asked the Father for forgiveness. And then you should have been willing to take, the punishment of your iniquity from the Father, right? Rather than trying to go out here and confront the woman because you just made the situation even more worse, right? So he that goeth into his neighbor's wife, whosoever toucheth her shall not be innocent. Men do not despise a thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. But if he be found, he shall restore sevenfold, and he shall give all the substance of his house. But whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. You see that? It comes from a lack of understanding. Because if you start thinking that you can get away with these things, when all of a sudden this woman turns on you and tells everything. Now, you know what I'm saying? Everything that you can try to build can possibly be destroyed. And this is what's happening to Sherrone Moore right now. And I'm going to show y'all a clip from Shannon Sharpe and him. And he just recently went through it. But he gave you can just see the anguish in him and the people around him, because these athletes understand what it is and how a woman can potentially rob you and destroy your whole life, right? That's why the Bible tells you to beware of this, right? He that doeth it, right, destroyeth his own soul, right? A wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. So now, do you think you need to know this Bible? Or do you think you need to let it keep sitting on your shelf, you know what I'm saying, collecting dust?
Ocho, Sherrone Moore, it's alleged, it's being reported that someone was on the staff.
Yes.
He elevated her to his executive assistant, ended up having a relationship with her. If I'm not mistaken, he has a wife. I think he has a couple of kids, 2, 3 kids. We saw a situation with Ime Udoka. We saw a situation with Mel Tucker. It's happened. I think Rick Pitino had a situation like that. I think Bobby Petrino had a situation like that. What are your thoughts, Ocho?
I mean,
Then I go to you, Joe.
You got to be careful. You got to be mindful. Obviously, at some point, when you're in positions of power, you almost somewhat feel invincible. Taking advantage and abusing that power, that said power, for those that work with you or part of an entity that you're a part of, and you think you're safe.
Yeah.
Think you're safe. You take all the right steps. You do all the right measures to ensure your safety, and that individual does hoping everything they can to make sure to protect you and what you guys have going on. But for some reason, every time a situation like this does happen where you think nobody can be able to pull back the covers or the layers on what you have going on, it always gets out every time, because there's so many stories of these type of situations happening. It's sad that it's come to this. Wife, family, embarrassment that they have to deal with. The young lady who's also a part of this, the embarrassment that her and her family are going to have to deal with.
Correct.
And it kind of sucks. It sucks real bad on both ends for both parties that are involved.
Joe?
I don't think there's a way you can feel safe in a situation like this. Like, it's almost like looking over your shoulder every time, you know what I'm saying, you go to work, or at some point, maybe some guys don't get caught, but more times than not, man.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation, bro. You gotta have the discipline. You gotta lead by example. You lead men, so you want to be an example to them, lead them the right way, and to have this, it's just unfortunate, bro.
All right. So what you just heard, those 3 athletes, those guys are 3, prominent athletes. All of them have had pretty much, successful careers at one point, as an athlete. Shannon Sharpe, he's actually in the Hall of Fame. Joe Johnson was a very good basketball player. And Chad Ocho Cinco Johnson, he was also a good football player, right? So they all had, made millions of dollars. But what they're telling you is the same thing that the Bible is telling you, right? Is that you get into these situations, and the bottom line is you think you can trust somebody, you know what I'm saying? Think that, oh, well, you're doing this and she won't tell on you, only for you to find out later on that when the heat gets on, you know what I mean? She may flip on you, and then you'll end up just like Sherrone Moore. So this is why the Bible tells you, you know what I'm saying? It's for men, you know what I'm saying? How you ought to deal with women, right? Proverbs chapter 5, my son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. Because see, she sees you, she wants you too. And especially if she knows you got, some financial security in which you could take care of her, right? But her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a 2-edged sword. So this is all that Sherrone Moore is finding out personally right now in front of everybody. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. Hear me now, therefore, O you children, and depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, right? And come not nigh the door of her house. Lest thou give thine honor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel. Ain't that what just happened with Sherrone Moore, right? Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, right? Because now he's going to have to go and give his money to lawyers and all this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? His wife probably take half of it, you know, whatever. If she files for a divorce, he's going to see who his wife is in this situation, right? Not to mention, you know what I'm saying, this woman, this mistress, she may try to sue him too, right? But, you know, here these men at Michigan, you know, who knew about this stuff, right? They wanted to get him out of there anyway. They wanted a new coach. So they needed an excuse, right? And though they was, you know what I mean? You know, they knew about it. They knew they couldn't get him as long as both of them kept their stories together. But as soon as she flipped the script, then that's when they pulled the trigger, right? Verse 10, let strangers be filled with thy wealth and thy labors be in the house of a stranger. And thou mourn at the last when thy flesh and thy body are consumed. This is describing his situation perfectly. And say, now you say, now once you go through it, now once you've been in it, now you realize, how have I hated instruction and my heart despised reproof, and have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined my ear to them that instructed me. I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well, right? Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad in rivers of water in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth, right? Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger? This is exactly what Sherrone Moore did, right? For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. His own iniquity shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sins. He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray. So you see, you know, this is why Sherrone Moore needs to know the Bible. This is why he needs to know the word. Because it's like, daggone it, it's right there. If I would have just listened, if I had just known. And this is where you just need to repent. Don't go no extreme wanting to kill yourself or kill somebody else. You know what I'm saying? You've committed sin just like so many men in the Bible committed sin. And I'm going to show y'all. You know what I'm saying? But at the same point in time, you know, this is where you got to just acknowledge your transgression, confess your faults, and ask the Father for his grace and his mercy to rest, rule, and abide on you. Right? Let's go back to the clips.
I think the thing is that all the situations that you've heard, you never think a situation like this can happen to you, even though you're doing what you've heard about. Nah, this is going to be different. She ain't like that. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to get out. Don't nobody know but her and I, blah, blah, blah. And I can imagine 6-7 months ago, I went through something very similar. So I know what that storm is like.
Yes, sir.
And unless you've been in it, that's why when people say, this is what I would do, you don't know what you would do until you in it. Until you in that pressure cooker, until you in the eye of the storm.
Yes, sir.
Until you in.
Now, as many of y'all may know, but some of you may not know, that man that was speaking there is Shannon Sharpe, right? You know, he is a Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame football player, right? He's actually in the Hall of Fame. Just within this last past year, he got caught up in some scandals, you know what I'm saying, with a woman, right? He's not married, but you know what? Having relations with a woman, all this type of stuff. She put out the information and, you know, and now his name is out there and he ends up losing his job and all kinds of stuff, right? So the bottom line is, you know what? How do you get yourself in a situation? He's telling you, right? even though you may know it, you don't think it's going to happen to you, right? She wouldn't do that to me. You're trusting the wrong woman. And anytime you do that, you've opened yourself up. You know what I'm saying? Whether you texting, whether you talking on the phone, whether you doing, anytime you open yourself up to that, right? You are putting yourself in harm's way, especially when you got stuff to lose. You know, the one thing as men, you got to learn how to protect your assets, right? Because the one person that can come in and rob you is the woman that you let your guards down, you see what I'm saying, and call yourself trusting. So how do you do that? You see what I'm saying? Because now this is where you got to have a relationship with the Father. This is where you got to turn to the Father and say, Father, is this woman of you? Do you know what I mean? Are you giving her to me? Is she mine? And if the Father is like, you know what I'm saying? This is why you need to build your relationship with him so that you can pray and talk to him. Because just because your eye may want her and you think, yo, I like her and I want her and whatever, that's where your sin starts, right? Okay? Matter of fact, let's go to scripture. All right, Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 through 30. And what does it say? You have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. So meaning you're not supposed to go lay with somebody else's wife, right? But I say unto you, now this is Jesus, this is Yahushua, the Messiah speaking. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her, hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. So when you say that, a lot of people just jump up and it's like, well, what does that mean? If I just look at her, that's a sin. Well, what if I didn't do anything, right? It's when the lust starts is when you're already in trouble, right? If you look on her and now you lust after her, we're going to go get us a definition for lust here in a minute. But he says, but if this happens, if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. So when he's basically giving you an extreme case that, you know, once you see that this has happened to you and you know this has happened to you, you got to get rid of that thing, right? Even if you had to go to the extreme of plucking your eye out, right? Now, of course, he ain't telling you to literally pluck your eye out, but it's get rid of this lust that you got, right? And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. So this is why you got to catch that lust immediately. As soon as you look on a woman and lust after and you start thinking to yourself, man, I want her, that's when you got to know, right? That's when you got to go before the Father, right? Let's go to Romans 7:7. All right, Romans 7:7, what does it say? What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust, right? So when Jesus said, when you look on a woman to lust after her, I had not known lust except the law had said, thou shalt not covet, or thou shalt not desire something that belongs to your neighbor, right? So when you look at any woman, you don't know whether or not God has her appointed for somebody else, right? And so if you look at her and then you start thinking, oh, well, she ain't got no ring on her finger. Oh, well, you know what? She's not married. I'm not married, whatever. You look on her and now you lust after her because you want her. But the truth of the matter is, if God has not appointed her or ordained her for you, you are getting ready to enter into a situation in which you're going to have chaos, conflict, and disagreement. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, it can cost you everything, right? So when you don't understand these things, right? And if you don't have a relationship with the Father, you're just going to walk around here because you got a sinful nature. You just want what you want, right? So he said, this is what it said. I had not known lust except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. When you look on a woman and you lust after her, when you look on her and you want her and you desire her, now you start immediately, you're going through the motions, right? You're going, oh, well, can I get your number? Oh, okay, yeah, da-da-da. You know, you want to go out to movie? Oh, you want to go out to dinner? So you sitting there and she's sitting up there just going along because if she wants you, she's going along with it too, right? But if God has not ordained y'all to be together, you see what I'm saying? And especially when you know you married, you see? And she, you know, and God ain't told you to take that woman. He ain't tell you, you know, to go get her. You know, I can't take somebody to me that God has not ordained for me, right? That's how you can combat it. That's why you now, as soon as you see something that you call yourself liking, you go to the Father and say, Father, is this you? Because what you have to also understand is, right? Just because you see a woman and she's pretty, just because you have sex with her, once you get into that, then it's the relationship. She may be a liar, she may be a cheater, she may be a murderer. You know what I'm saying? She may be a thief, right? You don't know who you're getting with just based off of outer appearances. You have to understand, you know what I mean? People have character. People have character flaws. You see what I'm saying? So you don't know that just by looking at a person. So unless you really understand who is this person, and you don't go to the Father and ask him and say, you know, who is this person? Show me who she is, right? Because that's where you got to develop your relationship with the Father. Because other than that, you have no defense against this because it's what you want, right? Let's go back to the video.
Ocho, you and I have had a conversation. So
Yes, sir.
I know. To be in that storm and
Crazy.
to know everybody know everything that you worked your entire life for. You feel it like it's crumbling right before your eyes.
You gone.
Yeah.
And the only people that's gonna be there, it's gonna be a select few. It's gonna be a select few. That's the hardest part. I mean, everybody. Look, it's kind of it. Look, and I understand the situation, but if you're married and you engage in an inappropriate relationship, why would you do that? You married. And see, everybody always say, well, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Well, if you thought you was gonna get caught, if you thought something was gonna go wrong, you wouldn't do it.
Right.
The same reason you speed. If you thought you was gonna get caught, you think you would speed? No. Unless you're a kleptomaniac, you're not gonna steal. You know, klepto just can't help it. But some people don't. You don't shoplift. You don't steal stuff if you think you'll get caught. That's why a lot of people, most robberies happen at when? At night. You got the veil of darkness. Because I don't want to get caught. I don't want to be seen. The same thing while you creep. Most times, when the creeping take place? At night. Boy, college professor told me, he said the night has 1,000 eyes. And on most nights it has 1,002 because somebody sees you.
Oh yeah, I'm writing that down, boy. That's a good one there, boy.
Damn.
Say the night has 1,000 eyes?
On most nights it has 1,002 because somebody sees you.
Well, I don't know when I'm gonna be able to use that in conversation.
And then the other reports that came out that he was arrested and things that, some things escalated.
Damn.
That old hoo-ha, boy.
Hey.
It's undefeated.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey,
Think about Samson and Delilah, David and Bathsheba.
It made a fool of us all, though, at some point.
Now you see, that's man talk. You see how they're like, because men know. We know what it is to burn in lust, right? See a woman and want to have her, and all this type of stuff. Then get her, and now you wish you never got into the situation, want to get rid of her, right? Some of these sucker men, act like, well, you should have never did this, whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? A person who actually, when you go into the situation, right? You like he said, you don't go into a situation to get caught. The bottom line is, you know what I'm saying? You really thinking, man, I like her. I really like her. And then you think, well, I can trust her. And she wouldn't do whatever. She really likes me, right? She'll tell you all that kind of stuff or whatever. But like he said, in the night, you see what I'm saying? You try to do things undercover, but guess what? The one person that you're doing with That's the one who really knows, and that's the one who has the evidence, right? So that's what I'm telling you. You know, as men, you have to understand this. This is why I say, in all you're getting, get understanding, right? You know, the Most High wasn't telling us this because he ain't, well, I don't want y'all to have this or have that or whatever. He's telling us like, listen, you go get involved with the wrong person, wrong woman. And this even go for women too. You get involved with the wrong man, you're going to go through something. You see what I'm saying? This is why you're seeking the Father's will for your life, right? This is why you praying and asking the Father, you know, Lord, is this relationship of you? Do you want me in this relationship? Right? And you got to seek him to get an answer from him before you jump up and do something. Because next thing you know, you jump up and you get in a situation. Take this for instance. See, a lot of people assume, and they assume incorrectly because they don't understand the will of God. Let's say, for example, that Sherrone Moore's wife really ain't the woman he's supposed to be married to, right? He got with her, he's seen her, but that's not the one he really is supposed to be married to. What if it was the second woman, the mistress, who it really was God's will for him to be married to her? But the problem is you didn't wait for all these years till you met her. Now, all of a sudden, you see what I'm saying? You find yourself really wanting to be with her, but you already made a commitment over here. And now, if you get out of it, you already know you're going to lose half of your stuff, right? But what do you do? Because if this is legitimately, if this second woman was legitimately the will of the Father for you, what are you going to do? Just put away this woman and your children, right? Now, most people won't tell you that it was not unlawful for a man to have multiple wives. You see? The people in the church will tell you, oh, well, you can't do that. That was the Old Testament, whatever. That's sin is transgression of the law, right? But that don't mean you're supposed to multiply women to yourself. As the king, you don't multiply wives to yourself. That's a violation of the law. But if the Father give them to you, you see what I'm saying? It's totally different. But this is why you have to understand David's story so much, right? But before we go into David's story, first let me tell you about Joseph's story. Then we get into David's story. Then we'll talk about Solomon's story. And we'll talk about Samson's story. Let's go to scripture. All right, so first we go to Genesis chapter 39, verses 1 through 20. And what do we see? And Joseph was brought down to Egypt. Okay, his brothers had sold him into Egypt. And Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him. And he made him overseer over his house. And all that he had he put into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, lie with me. So now she wants Joseph. Even though her husband is successful and her husband is the one that's, got Joseph working for him. But now she wants Joseph because she sees how when Joseph got there, everything is blessed and everybody loves Joseph, right? But he refused and said unto his master's wife, behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the hand. So my master don't know what's in my hand, what's with me in the house. And he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? And it came to pass as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her to lie by her or to be with her. So this wasn't just a one-time deal. This kept going on and on and on and on and on, right? Sometimes you can forsake it today, come back tomorrow, it's still there. Come back the next day, it's still there, right? But now the bottom line is, you think about what's happening with her. This guy, I'm trying to come on to him, he won't do it. You know what? He can always tell my husband on me that I tried to lay with him. So even though she approached him, now she got a reason to be afraid of Joseph because she knows what she's done, right? Verse 11, and it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. So now, you made a mistake. You made a simple mistake. You went into the house when there was no witnesses, right? And she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out. And it came to pass when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth, aha, I got you, that she called unto the men of her house and spake unto them, saying, see, he hath brought in a Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in here, and he came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. So because Joseph rejected her, she hated him. Now all of a sudden, because she couldn't get what she wanted, now all of a sudden she told a lie on him and got him in trouble, right? And it came to pass when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, the Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. So what's the moral of this? When you're a man and a woman sets her eyes on you, don't get yourself in a one-on-one situation with her without any witnesses around, right? Because you see, people lie, right? And she blatantly lied on Joseph and got him in trouble. But when you look at this for what it really was God's will for Joseph to go into the prison anyway, because he had to be there in order for him to get close to Pharaoh, right? But now, if you're Joseph, how you got to feel about this, right? I ain't did nothing to this woman. She tried or whatever. I should have went ahead and done it. She's going to sit here and tell a lie on me. I'm in jail. You know what I'm saying? And you sitting up here believing your lying wife, right? Let's go to the next story. All right, so next we go to Judges chapter 14. We talk about Samson, okay? So you see, Joseph was a faithful man, right, who did the right thing. And the woman still got him in trouble. Let's look at Judges chapter 14, the way we see. Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughter of the Philistines. And he came up and told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughter of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. Then his father and his mother said unto him, is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all my people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? Right? You ain't supposed to go marry one of these people outside of the tribe, right? And Samson said unto his father, get her for me, for she pleases me well. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord. So you see, sometimes God's will ain't what everybody thinks it is. And sometimes people start assuming, thinking that God's will is one thing, but God's will is actually something totally different. So it was God's will for him to go get with this woman who was not a daughter of Israel, right? But his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord, that he sought an occasion against the Philistines, for at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel. Then went Samson down and his father and his mother to Timnath and came to the vineyards of Timnath. And behold, a young lion roared against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent it as he would have rent a kid. And he had nothing in his hand, but he told not his father or his mother what he had done. And he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. And after a time he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. And he took therefore in his hands and went on eating, and came to his father and mother, and he gave them, and they did eat. But he told not them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. So his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young men to do. And it came to pass when they saw him that they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If you can certainly declare it me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. But if you cannot declare it me, then shall you give me 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. And they said unto him, put forth thy riddle, that we may hear it. And he said unto them, out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. And they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, entice thy husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn thee and thy father's house with fire. Have you called us to take what we have? Is it not so? So now you see, the wife gets threatened. They don't just threaten Samson, they threaten his wife and her family. And you see, her love for her family, now she's going to turn and betray her husband, right? Verse 16, and Samson's wife wept before him and said, Thou dost but hate me and lovest me not. Thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people and hast not told it me. And he said unto her, Behold, I have not told it my father or my mother, and shall I tell it to thee? And she wept before him the 7 days. So there goes the whining and the crying that a woman will try to do, right? Start crying to you to get something. Oh, she wants to wait, so she's going to start crying and resort to acting like a child, right? Like a little baby, right? So she wept before him the 7 days while their feast lasted, and it came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him, right? Kept nagging him. And she told the riddle to the children of her people. Why? Because she had to get this information, because she wanted to make sure she saved her family, right? And the men of the city said unto him on the 7th day before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, If you had not plowed with my heifer, you had not found out my riddle. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon and slew 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave change of garments unto them which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend. All right, so we pick the story back up in Judges chapter 15, verse 1 through 6. What do we see? But it came to pass within a while after, in the time of wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid. Now remember, his wife has been given to his friend. And he said, I will go into my wife into the chamber, but her father would not suffer him to go in. And her father said, I verily thought that thou hast utterly hated her, therefore I gave her to thy companion. Is not her younger sister fairer than she? Take her, I pray thee, instead of her. Now remember, the Most High, it was his will for him to get with her, because the Father, the Most High, sought an occasion against the Philistines, okay? And Samson said concerning them, Now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do them a displeasure. Oh, so you gave my wife to another man, to my friend. That's what you did as her father. Oh, okay, right? And Samson went and caught 300 foxes and took firebrands and turned tail to tail and put a firebrand in the midst between two tails. And when he had set the brands on fire, he let them go into the standing corn of the Philistines and burnt up both the shocks and also the standing corn with the vineyards and olives. Then the Philistines said, Who have done this? And they answered, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he have taken his wife and given her to his companion. And the Philistines came up and burnt her and her father with fire. So guess what? Her betraying her husband, and it still didn't stop. She ended up getting burned with fire anyway. All right, next we go Judges chapter 16, because this is the story that most people are familiar with, because they didn't know that Samson actually had a wife before he ever got with Delilah, okay? Judges 16, Then went Samson to Gaza and saw there an harlot, and went in unto her. So now you see, Samson don't have his wife now. So now what does he do? He goes and he starts getting in, laying with harlots, okay? And it was told the Gazites, saying, Samson is come hither. And they compassed him in and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city, and were quiet all the night, saying, In the morning, when it is day, we shall kill him. And Samson lay till midnight, and arose at midnight, and took the doors of the gate of the city and the two posts, and went away with them, bar and all, and put them upon his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of an hill that is before Hebron. And it came to pass afterwards that he loved the woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Okay? So basically, after he gets in this little scuffle with over this harlot that he had went in, now he meets this woman Delilah. Okay? And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and said unto her, Entice him and see wherein his great strength lieth, right? And by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. So now they have hired her to go in and entice him, right? See, so sometimes that strange woman that comes and flatter you with her lips, you know what I'm saying? You don't even know whether or not somebody has sent her to come and try to deceive you and try to entice you, right? Verse 6, And Delilah said to Samson, Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee. And Samson said unto her, if they bind me with 7 green withs that were never dried, then shall I be weak and be as another man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green withs which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber. And she said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he brake the withs as a thread of tow is broken when it touches the fire, so his strength was not known. Now, you would think Samson should have known right then and there, right? Plus, you had already been betrayed by a woman before, right? But he still doesn't figure it out. And Delilah said unto Samson, behold, thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherein thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if they bind me fast with new ropes that were never occupied, then shall I be weak and be as another man. Delilah therefore took new ropes and bound him therewith, and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And there were liars in wait abiding in the chamber. And he brake them from off his arms like a thread. And Delilah said unto Samson, hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web. And she fastened it with the pin, and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awaked out of his sleep, and went away with the pin of the beam and with the web. And she said unto him, how can thou say I love thee, when thine heart is not with me? So what is she trying to do? You don't trust me. Why don't you trust me? Why don't you love me? See, when somebody is pushing you to try to get you to trust them, that's when you know not to trust them, right? And she said, thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherein thy great strength lieth. Oh, yeah, and every time I told you, you basically tried to see whether or not, you know what I'm saying, I could be bound, right? So why do you want to know that, right? Verse 16, and it came to pass when she pressed him daily with her words. So there's the nagging. There's the contentions of a wife, right? Well, the Bible tells you, you know what I'm saying, it's better to dwell on the rooftop than with a contentious woman, right? That'll just keep pressing you and nagging you daily, right? So that his soul will vex unto death, right? She kept on. Vexed the man to the point it's like, man, what? That he told her all his heart, right? To get her to shut up and leave him alone. And said unto her, there hath not come a razor upon mine head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. And when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up this once, for he hath showed me all his heart. So now she knows. Then the Lord of the Philistines came up unto her and brought money in their hand. So she was paid to betray him, right? You see that, you know what I mean? Just like Judas was paid to betray Jesus, right? You can't just look at a woman and start thinking, oh, I like her, I want to be with her. You know what I mean? You got money, you know what I'm saying? Some of these men, these little weasel men that want to try to sue you or rob you, they will send a woman at you, right? So she'll go back and set you up, right? Verse 19, and she made him sleep upon her knees, and she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awoke out of his sleep and said, I will go out as at other times before and shake myself. And he wist not that the Lord was departed from him. But the Philistines took him and put out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza and bound him with fetters of brass. And he did grind in the prison house. Howbeit the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaven. Then the lords of the Philistines gathered them together for to offer a great sacrifice unto Dagon their God, and to rejoice, for they said, our God hath delivered Samson our enemy into our hand, right? And when the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, our God hath delivered into our hands our enemy, and the destroyer of our country, which slew many of us. And it came to pass, when their hearts were merry, that they said, call for Samson, that he may make us sport. And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made them sport, and they set him between the pillars. And Samson said unto the lad that held him by the hand, suffer me that I may fill the pillars whereupon the house standeth, that I may lean upon them. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there, and there were upon the roof about 3,000 men and women that beheld while Samson made sport. And Samson called unto the Lord and said, O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me. I pray thee, only this once, O God, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes. And Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, and on which it was borne up, of the one with his right hand, and on the other with his left. And Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself with all his might. And the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people that were therein. So the dead which he slew at his death were more than they which he slew in his life. Then his brethren and all the house of his fathers came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the burying place of Manoah his father, and he judged Israel 20 years. All right. So you see how a woman, you know what I'm saying, overcame a strong man, right? So this is why, you know what I mean, men have to understand it. Don't matter that you're strong, right? At the same point in time, you got to understand and you got to talk to the Father. Next, we go and pick up David. This is important. This is one of my most favorite lessons in the Bible. And I'll tell you why when we get there. But 2 Samuel chapter 11. It came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah, but David tarried still at Jerusalem. And it came to pass in an eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon. So now you see, what did Jesus say? If you look on a woman to lust after her, you've already committed adultery in your heart. So now he sees this, and now David's like, oh, who is that? Wow, I want her. So now you see, lust. Lust has entered into his heart. Now he's already ready. He's already then committed adultery. It's just a matter of time before it all takes place, right? This is why Jesus said, when you look on a woman to lust after her, you've committed adultery with her already in your heart, right? Because now you're going to start going through the motions. You already know what you're up to. This is why you got to pray right then and there, right? Verse 3, and David sent and inquired after the woman, and one said, is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? So they basically said, oh, she's married. David's supposed to have said, oh, that's adultery. Can't touch her. And David sent messengers and took her, and she came into him, and he lay with her. So, you see, don't care nothing about no adultery. I want what I want, right? For she was purified from her uncleanness, and she returned unto her house. And the woman conceived and sent and told David and said, I am with child. Uh-oh. Now everybody's going to know that you went ahead and committed adultery, right? Now I got to make this situation go away. That's why you got a lot of men now that'll try to get this woman that's supposedly was Sherrone Moore, you know what I mean? And this other woman, he had to have her to get an abortion, right? So now, you know what I mean? You got evidence of your transgression. Now you got to try to get rid of that, right? That's why you get a lot of people that get into abortion, right? You know what I'm saying? There ain't no need of lying about things. You got to be honest about stuff, right? Because these are the type of things you got to go to the Father with. This is what you got to confess, right? So verse 6, and David sent to Joab, saying, send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. And when Uriah was coming to him, David demanded of him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered. And David said to Uriah, go down to thy house and wash thy feet. And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house. And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, David said unto Uriah, camest thou not from thy journey? Why then didst thou not go down into thine house? Right? And Uriah said unto David, the ark in Israel and you Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into mine house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As thou livest and as thy soul liveth, I will not do this thing. So you see what David was trying to get him to do. You go in and lay with her, and then that way, you know what I mean, you can make it look like you were pregnant, you know what I mean, that you were the one that got her pregnant, and David would be off the hook, right? But he wouldn't do it. So David said to Uriah, tarry here today also, and to tomorrow I will let thee depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and tomorrow. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his Lord, but went not down to his house. So David tried to get him drunk, thinking that, okay, if he get drunk, maybe he'll go down there and want to lay with his wife. Still didn't want to do it. And it came to pass in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter saying, set you Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire you from him, that he may be smitten and die. Okay, you don't want to go here and lie with your wife so that I can blame this illegitimate child on you. Well, I'm going to have to get rid of you, Uriah, right? Now, keep in mind, Uriah's a Hittite, so, he really ain't supposed to be a part of the camp no how. But at the same point in time, you see Uriah was honorable, right? And it came to pass when Joab observed the city that he assigned Uriah into a place where he knew that valiant men were there. And the men of that city went out and fought it with Joab, and there fell some of the people of the servants of David, and Uriah the Hittite died also. So David said, put him in the front, then draw back. When he gets shot and killed, you know what I'm saying, let me know. Then Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war, and charged the messenger, saying, when thou hast made an end of telling the matters of the war unto the king, and if so be that the king's wrath arise, and say unto thee, wherefore approach ye so nigh unto the city when you did fight? Knew you not that they would shoot from the wall? So not only did, David, because, Joab had to do this way to get Uriah killed, you know what I'm saying? He's like, okay, if David gets mad about this, you know what I'm saying? This is what you tell him. Who smote Abimelech, the son of Jerubbesheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of a millstone upon him from the wall that he died in Thebez? Why went ye not to the wall? Then say thou, thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also, right? So the messenger went and came and showed David all that Joab had sent him for. And the messenger said unto David, surely the men prevailed against us and came out unto us into the field, and we were upon them even unto the entering of the gate. And the shooters shot from off the wall upon thy servants, and some of the king's servants be dead. So it wasn't just Uriah that he got killed, right? Because Joab had to go close to the wall. You got some of your other servants killed in order to try to make sure that you were covering up what you did, right? And thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. Then David said unto the messenger, thus shalt thou say unto Joab, let not this thing displease thee, for the sword devoureth one as well as another. Make thy battle more strong against the city, and overthrow it, and encourage thou him. And when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah her husband was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when the morning was past, David sent and fetched her to his house, and she became his wife and bare him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. So you did all this stuff, and you thought you was going to get away with it, right? All right, 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 7 through 24. And now you see, basically, that God said, oh, okay, I seen what you did. Nathan, go down there and tell David. And remember, Nathan's a prophet, right? He's got a direct relationship with the Father. So the Most High says, Nathan, go down there and tell David, go get him. So Nathan says to David, thou art the man. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. So you see, the Father said, I gave you multiple women. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord, to do evil in his sight? Right? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Right? Bottom line is, David, I gave you such and such. And if that had been, if that was too little, I'd have gave you more. Why did you go do that? Why did you come talk to me? Why'd you go sit in? You seen that you wanted this woman, whatever. You ain't even come talk to me, but you knew you was not supposed to commit adultery, and yet you did it anyway. This is that time when, as a man, when you have that desire in your heart and you know you're not supposed to do something, you don't just carry on. You go get before the Most High and you start crying out. You go get in your prayer closet and you start crying out and you start saying, Father, I done looked and I done seen this woman. I know I done lusted after. If this is not your will, forgive me, for I done lusted after. Take this away from me, right? You got to go talk to the Father at that moment, right? That's what it means to confess your sins and confess your iniquity, right? You don't just go get into something and then after that, you know what I mean, keep walking in it, and now you got something to cry about because you never went to talk to the Lord, all right? But anyway, verse 10. Now therefore the sword, so now here comes your punishment, right? Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because thou hast despised me, and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. So what did he say? You know what I mean? If you commit adultery, then guess what? You know what I'm saying? You already know. The Father going to get you. There's going to be repercussions for that. And even though David is faithful to God, except in this instant, you know what I mean? No, you're not going to go altogether unpunished, right? So verse 11, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of this son. And guess who his neighbor ended up being? His own son, Absalom, right? For thou did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. So you see that? He confessed it. He didn't go run around here, you know what I mean? Well, you know why? Just nope. I see him. Yep, you right. You got me. He ain't say, Nathan, well, I'll throw you in jail. You to talk to me, right? Nope. I have sinned against the Lord. I'm in the wrong. And Nathan said unto David, the Lord hath also put away thy sin. Thou shalt not die. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. And Nathan departed unto his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. So you see, sometimes what a man does, you know, can come back on the child, right? If y'all done did some shady business, right? David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not. Neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the seventh day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, is the child dead? And they said, he is dead. Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required that they set bread before him, and he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, what thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread. And he said, while the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who can tell whether God will be gracious to me that the child may live, right? So he was fasting to see if maybe God would forgive him and have mercy. Maybe God was like, okay, well, you know what? In that you humbled yourself, you know what I'm saying? I'll heal the child. But now he is dead. Wherefore shall I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. And David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her, and she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon, and the Lord loved him. So this is when you see how Solomon comes out from David and Bathsheba. So Bathsheba could have literally ended up being David's wife. He didn't have to try to set Uriah up because Uriah was a Hittite. But had he went to the Lord, he don't know whether or not, you know what I'm saying, Uriah would have got killed naturally in battle, right? And then the father would have said, Bathsheba, you was never supposed to be married to that Hittite anyway, right? But yet this is the union of which Solomon comes through. But as we see later on, Solomon gets in trouble because of women, right? His love for women. Let's go there. All right, so next we go 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 through 13. What do we see? But King Solomon loved many strange women. You see that? Now, the bottom line is, a lot of people don't understand. A man can love more than one woman, right? If God can love more than one man, right, then the man, you know what I'm saying, why is it that he only supposed to just love one wife? Now, if it's God's will for him to love one wife, that's fine. But if it's God's will for him to only have no wives, right, then that's God's will for his life. But if God gave a man multiple wives, that's between that man and God, right? You see where God said, I gave multiple wives to you, right? But you see, this is what people have to understand. If a woman can love more than one child, right, you can have 3 or 4 children and love them all. You see what I'm saying? But men gotta go through this because they put this handcuff on men to say, listen, you only have one. But if it's God's will, what if it's God's will for him to have multiple? You see what I'm saying? But I can't tell a man you got to have 3 or 4 wives. I can't tell, a man you can have 0 wives, and I can't tell him that you just got to take one. That's between that man and the Most High Yah, right? That man has to seek the will of the Father for his life, period, right? Verse 2, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel. So Solomon, you know what I mean? At that time, you can select women from here, but these women out of these tribes you don't take. And what did Solomon do? He went and got those women from them people that he was not supposed to take, right? So it's women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. Most of them are Canaanites, except for the Moabites and Ammonites. Those are Lot's people. And remember, they did something to Israel. The Edomites, because they had turned around the Amalekites particularly, they had did something to Israel, right? of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, you shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart, right? Because the father told them in Deuteronomy chapter 7, don't go get with these nations, the Hittites and the Hivites, the Jebusites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, and all them. Why? Because they'll turn your heart away from following it. But you see, Solomon clave to these women in love, and guess what? He started doing things for his wives to please his wives, which got him in trouble with the father, right? He had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, right? So now you worshiping false gods? Really? And after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites? And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord and went not fully after the Lord as did David his father. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemos, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, right? So he's basically, I'll let y'all go serve y'all's gods. You're supposed to be the head. You're supposed to tell them your gods ain't nothing. We don't do that, right? But no, he let them go worship their gods. His heart got turned away. That's why he got in trouble, right? And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. So he knew God because the Father appeared to him. He knew the Most High Yah, right? And he had commanded him concerning this thing that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded, right? Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy. Howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. So this is when the kingdom got split, right? Because Solomon went after strange women. All right, so now y'all see. Joseph was a very faithful man to the Most High. But just by him being in the wrong place, the wrong time, one-on-one with a woman that desired him, you know what I'm saying, got himself in trouble, right? Samson, right? He was the strongest man. But yet, got with the wrong woman, trusted the wrong woman, lost both his eyes, eventually lost his life. David, a man after the Most High's own heart. What do you even see it? David repented, you see, but even lust got the best of him, right? And he brought evil upon his own house because of what he wanted and desired to have as a man. And Solomon, right? Loved strange women, right? Women who didn't love the Most High. Women that did not know the Most High, and got with them, and because of it, he caused his kingdom to depart from his son, right? So this is what we're talking about as far as men, you see? You think that you're just going after getting a woman and just laying with a woman, but you don't even realize, like the Bible say, you know what I'm saying? This can cost you your honor, and it can cost you your wealth, and it can end up in a stranger's house, right? But now let's go back to Shannon Sharpe, because he actually went through this storm. And you just hear, you know, how he basically explains what it was like while he was in that storm. Then we'll come back.
Boy, that's a hell. There's some people I don't hate anybody, but
Right.
there's a few people I really have a strong disliking for. I wouldn't wish what I went through on them. I wouldn't. Boy, it was tough. Boy, it was some days that all I had was not you, Ocho, and Joe, my family. That was it. Nobody else was there. All the phone calls the people used to call and, hey, how you doing? What's up? Stopped. I think that was besides that, yeah, it was embarrassing. But I think that was the toughest part. Is that people that you thought would always be in your corner, all of a sudden they weren't there.
So as you can hear from yourself, everybody loves you and want a piece of you when you're up, right? Everybody acts like they just your best friend, they love you and everything else. But let you go through that storm, right? And you go through things, right? Now it's not profitable for people to be associated with you, and you'll see who your true friends are, because people will drop you, like a hot rock. You see what I'm saying? But this is why, you know what I mean, you got to go to the Father to find out who you are supposed to be with, right? Proverbs 18:22, what does it say? Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord. Proverbs 19:14, what does it say? Houses and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Lord. So to find a wife, you got to go to the Lord, to the Most High Yah, to the Father to find her, right? Matthew chapter 19, verse 3 through 12, what does it say? The Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? And he answered and said unto them, Have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? So this is Yahusha, Yahweh Jesus, speaking to the Pharisees. And he said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh, right? Those two shall have one flesh, one desire, right? Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. See, a lot of people take this to be, they can go out here and join together whatever they want to, right? Samson got with who he wanted to, right? And if it wasn't God, right, you out of the will of God. You see, David went, you know what I'm saying, slept with somebody that wasn't supposed for them to do. And guess what? He got in trouble for that. Solomon, we definitely know he got with women he was not supposed to get with, that were forbidden. And he went and done it, and it cost him the kingdom, right? So this is why I say, what God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. So you don't assume just because you jump up and want to be with somebody that that's the Most High Yah putting you together with that person. That's why you go and you seek his will for your life, right? They say unto him, Why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? He saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, right? Because if a woman goes outside of a marriage, then, you know what I'm saying, she has just committed adultery because she was already married, right? But if you put away your wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, right? So if you put her away and marry somebody else, it says you're committing adultery, right? The only way you can put her away, you know what I'm saying, and marry somebody else is if she commits fornication against you, right? And whoso marrieth her which is put away doth commit adultery, right? So technically, you know what I'm saying, if this woman gets put away, you're in adultery for marrying her, right? So this is why, you know what I mean, people, I'm not going to sit here and say you can't be with this, whatever, because at the end of the day, it's about you doing the will of the Father. That's why you have to go to the Father to seek his will, because maybe you messed up at the beginning, right? And got with somebody you wasn't supposed to get with. But now God's grace and mercy will be sufficient for you once you learn your lesson. But you got to go to the Father to say, Father, is this who I'm supposed to be with? Especially in these days and times, because you don't know what a person believes on the inside by just looking at him, right? Verse 10, his disciples say unto him, if the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry, right? So you see a lot of men don't want to get married because they don't want to get with the wrong woman. They don't want to put their trust in the wrong woman and then lose all of their stuff. But he said unto them, all men cannot receive this saying. This is why you can't be religious, right? All men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. For there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb. So they ain't got no desire for women, so it ain't no big deal for them. And there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. where they cut off their testicles and, you know what I'm saying? So that they wouldn't have a desire for women. And there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. So now because I'm trying to walk uprightly before the Father, you know what I'm saying? Now I don't want no wife because I don't want the distraction, right? He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. This comes from the Messiah, Christ, right? Because all men can't receive these sayings of you telling somebody to just be abstinent, right? It don't work like that, okay? Let's go back and finish this last clip with Shannon Sharp.
Man, I was like, bro, I said, homeboy, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. I said, there are better days on the horizon. We just got to weather the storm.
Mm-hmm.
Just got to stand in it. Sherrone, all I can tell you, bro, you got to stand in it. You got to, I remember Mary Porter used to always tell us, and I didn't really understand because I had really never gone through anything. She said, boy, everybody, they're either entering the storm, they're in the storm, or they're coming out of the storm. There's only 3 phases. Everybody's doing something. You in it, you coming in it, you slap dab in the smack in the middle of it, or you leaving it.
Damn.
Damn.
Own it. Just damn. Someday you're like, man, am I gonna wake up? Is this a dream? Am I gonna wake up? Nah, bro, it's real. And that's what Sherrone is thinking right now. I guarantee you. He's like, this is a dream. Is this real? This really happened? And just like that.
Blink of an eye.
Just like that. Everything that you worked a lifetime for. All these bricks that you what is that, Jenga? Where you get the brick, you try to pull one out and don't topple down.
Huh?
And you know. Start stacking all back over again.
All right, so let's go ahead and close down with this, because as he correctly said, that's wise advice that he was given from his elder, right? You're either in the storm, right? You're about to go through the storm, or you're coming out of the storm. And then when the Bible says, rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and go after all your desires, but understand for all these things, you will be brought into judgment, right? Luke 14, verse 28 through 30. This is when Christ taught about, you got to learn to count up the costs, right? To whether or not you're going to be able to be a disciple of Christ, or whether or not you're going to be able, to do anything in life. You got to count up the cost. Verse 28, for which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Lest haply after he have laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. So with that being said, that's why men have to understand, just because you call yourself liking a woman, just because a woman like you, right? You find yourself in lust. You find yourself thinking, oh, I want her or whatever. You got to count up the costs, right? Especially you're a married man and you about ready to go out here and cheat on your family. You are giving this woman the ammunition to go back and tell your wife and to hurt your wife and to possibly take your wife and your children away from you. Because if your wife don't forgive you, you're going to see her for who she is, right? So the bottom line is you got to understand these things. And you got to count up the costs on everything that you do in life. You see? If I do this, what can I expect in return? See, a lot of people, you go trusting, oh, well, if I do this, well, she ain't going to say nothing. She wouldn't say nothing, whatever, because she really loves me and whatever, da-da-da. Nah. Because all it takes is for somebody to get angry at you and then they'll turn state evidence on you just like what she did, right? So it is what it is at the end of the day. It's funny, the world will tell men to go out here and pop bottles and sleep with as many women as you want to and have sex. They turn hip hop into, oh yeah, we got to go out here and screw as many women as we can. They turn, R&B from, love and being in a relationship to, oh, just go out here and have sex with anybody that you want. But as soon as a man go out there and do that, right, especially when it's one of us, we don't get the same treatment that the world gives to everybody else. But we know why, because we are the true Israelites. We got a covenant, right? We have a book. We got a standard why the Most High said, you stay in my word. You come to me. We got a covenant. These heathens out here, you don't do what they do, right? You be an example to them of how you're supposed to live your life in a righteous way, right? So this is what it's all about. So hopefully if Sherrone Moore hears this or sees this, if any of y'all know him, send him the video. You know what I'm saying? You ain't the first, bro. You ain't the last. You know what I'm saying? This is something that happens to the best of men, as you can see. Strong, wise, faithful. You see what I'm saying? Doesn't matter. Bottom line. You get with the wrong woman and you're going to have problems. With that being said, thank y'all for watching. Till we meet again. The Most High bless each and every one of you. Shalom.
Though I walk through the valley of death, shadows whisper, still in my breath. The ground feels cold, like it's alive. Each step a battle, just to survive. Though I walk alone, through the dark, through the storm, but I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. A light inside, it's my barricade. The trees, they shiver, they bend and creak. The wind, it howls, the future bleak. Yet my heart beats loud, a steady drum. It tells the night I won't succumb. They can't break me, no they won't, no they won't. My soul's on fire, they don't know. Though I walk alone, through the dark, through the storm, but I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. A light inside, it's my barricade. Fear is a shadow, it clings to the weed, but I got a voice and I let it speak. Mountains crumble, the skies might fall, but I'll rise through it all. Though I walk, though I'm not afraid, a lot afraid. No, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. It's my bad.